Hey, it's Chris, and Apple just dropped some brand new MacBook Pros on their website without any warning, so we're going to talk about that right now, and I'm going to give you my reaction as someone who's been using the 2016 MacBook Pro with the Touch Bar for a couple years. So we're going to talk about the new processors and what you can do with them. We're going to talk about the new keyboard, because I'm sure you're wondering about that. We're going to talk about the TrueTone display and some of the other smaller new features as well. The outside of these brand new MacBook Pros looks identical to the previous generation because this isn't a complete redesign. This is all like an internal refresh. So there's no OLED screen, there's no edge-to-edge display, there's no TrueDepth camera because there's no Face ID, and that means there's no notch. The 13-inch and the 15-inch MacBook Pros with the Touch Bar are the only ones that are getting the update this round, so the 13-inch without the Touch Bar gets no update. The 15-inch by far is getting the biggest upgrade with a 70% increase in performance, but the 13-inch isn't doing too shabby either. It's going to be twice as fast as the previous model. The top configuration for the new 15-inch maxes out at $6,699. Wow! But the base model starts at $2,399. The guts for the maxed out 15-inch are as follows. 6-core Intel 8th generation Coffee Lake processors, which can turbo boost up to 4.8 GHz with up to 32 GB of DDR4 memory, Radeon Pro discrete graphics, and 4 GB of video memory, and up to 4 TB of SSD storage. So what exactly can you do with all this extra power? Well, it's going to be great for photography, for coding, for video editing, for 3D graphics, and even for gaming. As a video editor, I'm super excited about having no timeline glitching or jitters when previewing content, not needing to use proxy media, and though I won't personally use this, the fact that you can edit 9 streams of full-res 4K video in Final Cut Pro, which is insanely cool. Also, as a video editor, the idea that I can have 4 TB of internal storage and possibly not need a scratch disk is amazing. I hate having to lug this LaCie rugged drive with me everywhere. On the way back from WWDC, for instance, I was editing on the plane. It's just not a good setup, and every time you bump it, it disconnects. Not cool. For non-video editors, you'll also see smooth real-time performance when rendering 3D models in Cinema 4D, lightning-fast high-res photo editing in Photoshop, and the ability to run multiple virtual machines as a coder. And the extra power really is going to be good for playing graphics-intensive games like, I don't know, Fortnite. Ever heard of it? And if you want to make things even more powerful, you could always plug in this eGPU from Blackmagic, so yeah, this is a beast of a setup in so many ways. So you're probably wondering about the keyboard, right? Because so many people have been making a big deal out of if a little piece of dust were to get stuck in your keyboard, it would just completely break. Well, that's not exactly the case. Well, the new MacBook Pros do have an updated keyboard. It's the 3rd generation butterfly keyboard, but it's only been updated to be quieter and have a different tone as opposed to fixing or messing around with that dust issue. So look, if you're looking into this, let me just say this. The 2nd generation butterfly keyboard was my personal favorite MacBook Pro keyboard. I use it all the time. I've never had any issues with it. So I like the way it types, and it's worked great for me. The one exception is when I first got it, there was some sort of little issue with the left shift key that resolved itself. I don't know what it was getting a little finicky, but it works perfectly, and it has worked perfectly since the day I bought it when it came out. So here's my thinking when it comes to the keyboard. If you're worried about the dust issue, don't let it stop you from buying this new machine, because Apple does have a 4-year repair program if something were to happen, which it probably isn't. I'm sure the issue is much smaller than everyone has made it out to be in their heads, because if Apple itself isn't worried enough about it to totally redesign it to get rid of whatever that dust issue could have been or is or whatever, then I don't think you should be worried about it either. The new MacBook Pro lineup now has the same TrueTone screen tech that the iPad Pros have enjoyed for a while, and not just on the main screen either, it's also in the Touch Bar as well. For me, TrueTone is pretty cool, but at the same time, in reality, it's not something that I sit there and notice and constantly appreciate every single day, which means one of two things. Either it's so good at what it does that I just don't notice it and it's seamless, which is what I'm gonna assume, or it's just not really a big deal, and so therefore I don't really pay attention to it or care about it. That's the other possibility. But either way, it definitely doesn't hurt. So while we're talking about the Touch Bar, let me just mention it here just because for me, it's not really a great thing or an awful thing. It's just kind of there. The one thing that kind of bugs me about it is that I hit that Siri button a little too often. So that's kind of annoying, but that's just what it is. Kind of like a minor gripe. On the other hand, I use it quite a bit in Final Cut Pro, which is like the program I use the most. So in that case, it's better and more usable and more functional than the old function keys. So with the Touch Bar, you can definitely live with it. Sometimes it's a little annoying and sometimes it's a little bit useful. So battery life on the new MacBook Pros is, maybe like you might expect, gonna stay at 10 hours. There's actually more capacity, but it gets kind of offset by all the extra power. There's always a trade-off when you add extra features, it's gonna sap the battery a little bit. Personally, I'd love to see that battery have just a little more oomph when it comes to that 10-hour spec, because when I am unplugged and I'm out doing something, I love to turn up the contrast. I crank it up, which of course ruins the battery life. So it's usable, it's livable, but it's the same as it has been. There's a new T2 chip here, which I'm not gonna delve into too deeply, other than to say it makes your Mac even more secure. It's also gonna let you say, "Hey Siri" to your Mac like you can with other Apple devices. The last new thing worth mentioning today, I think, is that there's a new official leather sleeve from Apple, which you may or may not be interested in picking up. And by the way, I've got a new series being developed right now. The first episode's coming out anytime, that has to do with amazing accessories for your entire Apple ecosystem. So if you like the idea of that leather sleeve, you're gonna love that series. So this MacBook Pro update obviously proves that Apple is still all about the Mac. Yes, the iPhone exists. Yes, it makes a lot of money for the company. Yes, they focus on it, but they're proving to you that they're still here when supporting the pro community on the Mac platform. Honestly, right now, I'm starting to get a little bit giddy, like I have been in years past, about Apple and the upcoming lineup of products, because right around the corner, we've got the Mac Pro coming out in 2019. It's rumored that in just a couple of weeks, we're gonna see the new Mac Mini refresh, along with the new iMacs, not to mention just brand new hardware all across the board. I think September's event is gonna be really, really exciting, obviously, because they didn't include this. They released this ahead of time because there's so much packed into that September event. So definitely a good time to be an Apple fan and a Mac fan as well. All right, that's it for this video. Let me know down in the comments if you enjoyed it or what other questions you have. Also, I would love for you to sign up for a new email newsletter. There's gonna be some exclusive content in there, no spam, and I'm not gonna overdo it by sending stuff all the time. Promise that you're gonna like it. Also, I would really appreciate it if you shared this video with your friends. If you know somebody who's looking at a new computer or who loves Apple stuff, your shares are the lifeblood of this channel. So I would really appreciate it. I'll give you a high five right now for doing that, and I'll catch you in the next video.